welcome. You know, it's been so long since we haven't been able to come together and attend. Obviously, every time we have an event like this, we hope that we're going to pack the place. But I think that one of the nice things that we learned about the pandemic, though, also is that if you're unable to get here, we're still able to provide you information in different ways. So it's really nice for the folks who might be working a late shift, couldn't make it, that they're going to be able to watch a video of this tomorrow and get all the same information they would have if they were here with us now. But we really appreciate you guys coming out and being here with us. It's an important part of community to have people gather in person. So my name is BJ Hensel. I'm the assistant principal for the class of 2022. This is a presentation that mainly our counselors are going to provide to you. They're the experts in this area, and I just wanted to introduce them first. We have Miss Morris, Miss Jill Morris, and she's responsible for last names A through G. Mr. Billy Haynes, he is responsible for H through O, last names. And then Miss Dawson is responsible for P through Z. So just wanted to introduce them for you folks here, and also for the folks who are going to be watching the video who maybe haven't had an opportunity. So, you know, a lot of our students are synchronous right now, or asynchronous, and haven't had the opportunity to meet our counselors. So I guess you guys take a seat. So I just wanted to say a few quick things. As I said, we have the experts here, and there are things that I'm learning this year. This is my first time as an assistant principal of a graduating senior class. I'm really excited about it. You know, it's impossible to be in the position that I am and not think back to my high school days and graduating with my class and what it really means to be a senior and be a high school student. And, you know, I've been saying to the students from the very first time that I stood on this stage and met your children in our very first freshman year when Beverly Hills and Drexel Hill Middle School students and you know, any other student that transferred came here and we were together for the first time, is that the experience always goes so much faster than you think it's going to. And you know, it's really special this time that the kids get to spend together as a group, as a graduating class that will all culminate this June. And then obviously there are moments like this where we're talking about the plans that go, you know, far beyond their relationships with their peers here and all the connections that are built here at Upper Darby High School. I would just ask you to help your kids see and live this experience of their senior year in the fullest way that they can possibly live it. Probably all of us look back on our experience in our senior year and high school years and have some regret. You know, it might not be earth-shattering, but that thing that we wish that we would have done, that club that we wish that we would have joined, that sports team, that event that we wish that we would have attended that maybe we didn't. So please just encourage your kids. You know, I want them to really live out the full breadth of everything that their senior year has to offer. So please encourage them the same way. You know, about the college and career process and post-secondary, you know, I would just say that every track in life is a viable track, and we never know where that path is going to take us. I talked to the kids today, and I started off in a trade school learning how to be a landscaper. When I graduated high school in 1998, I didn't think that I would ever be a principal at a school, but that's where my path took me, and I'm so excited that it did, and I'm trying to encourage the kids to follow their passion to where they're going to go. It might not be where you end up, but get started, follow your passion, follow your interest to where you want to be, and that journey is different for everybody. And one of the things that I've been told by other assistant principals and by other counselors who've been through this process before is that the students sometimes get so focused on talking to their friends about what they're doing and about where they're going, or about the counselor told my friend that they should do this or that. This is a very, you know, unique experience to your child and where they want to go and what they want to do. So it really is a journey of exploration for them, and not every path is the same. They're all different. So, you know, just keep that in mind. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Morris. And again, I just want to thank you all for being here.
Welcome again. I'm super excited to be working with your children. Some of you, I may have had siblings. I have been in the Upper Darby School District since 2008, so super excited. Today, we're going to focus mostly on the educational path after high school. So your child wants to go to a technical school or a college or even the community college. That's really the focus for tonight. Okay. So first up, we just want to kind of touch upon transcripts and class rank. Students will be able to see their transcript on the Home Access Center. It should also include their rank and their GPA. I'm not sure that it's on there right now, but hopefully by Monday, they will be able to see the rank and cumulative GPA. But they will have the record to see all of their classes and grades, which they may need depending on what schools they're applying to. Some schools will ask that the students put in their own academic record, and so it's really helpful. I know we're getting a lot of questions from students about their GPA for scholarships, Common App, etc. Our GPA is on a 100-point scale, which is different than what most colleges' scales are. They look at a 4.0 scale. When we send out this PowerPoint, you'll be able to click on the conversion link to help your child find their 4.0 scale GPA with the number that's listed on their transcript. We also rank a little different. I think we're hoping to phase rank out. There are lots of high schools that actually do not rank. It's not a high priority for college admissions because, rank looks different in every school. We use deciles, so ours are on percentage. If your child is in the first decile, they're in the top 10%. If they're in the second, top 20%, etc. As I told the students earlier today, Naviance is my favorite program. If you ask anybody from the class of 2017 and 2020, they would tell you I'm the Naviance lady. Naviance is what we're going to use to communicate school records. So it's how the students are going to communicate with us what they need from us, and then it's how we are going to, as a school, send the records electronically to the schools. So I want to just touch on a couple of the tabs. The college tab is where students can research colleges. There's a section called Supermatch where students can look at, they can answer a bunch of questions and it'll come up with schools that meet their criteria. It's where they're going to apply. Scholarships is a whole page with, I think, 3 different links in there. Definitely an area to look at. Self-discovery is where students can take assessments. So there's a Strengths Explorer. There's also the Career Interest Profile. If a student has still kind of undecided, the Career Interest Profiler is a really good tool to use just to help give an idea of what are some of his or her passions. And then careers, you can explore careers here. My favorite is Road Trip Nation. In previous classes, I've had the students review those videos. They're pretty cool. You can find people who do some very unique, have some very unique careers that maybe you wouldn't even think of. The About Me allows students to put in resumes, set goals, etc. The most important part here is the brag sheet. Students will need letters of recommendation for certain colleges and universities, and they must fill out a brag sheet in order for us to do the letters of recommendation. The brag sheet that we want them to use is called the UD Brag Sheet Updated Class of 2022. We have a lot of universities who come and visit our school. This year, it's a hybrid type program. So we have schools that will come at 8 a.m. virtually. So students can sign up to see these college reps at home at 8 a.m. There's also colleges that will come and visit at 12 p.m. Those are in person. If a student is synchronous, they can reach out. They can still go to those 12 p.m. sessions as well. For students who want to attend them, you need to sign up on Naviance. You click on the More Information pops up, there's a big registration button. Click on that, and it will send you the information regarding that college visit. I like to point this out. I haven't, my picture's a little old, so please forgive me. It's clearly the class of 2020. But if students scroll down to the bottom of their Naviance page, they will see pages from my school. Here we will put stuff like question and answers. We'll put the college process guide. This will be another place for them to look at for resources. We will also use a college website that we have put out to our students, and we will also use Schoology. So there'll be multiple places to get all of the information that's needed for this college process. So Naviance, the colleges I'm applying to, this is a section where students need to add the schools where they want to apply. This is not an application. This is just a list. Think of it like management. It's a notebook. So a student puts down their list of schools, then we as the counselors can look at that and and get ready to send the documents to the schools. Teachers also use Naviance to do letters of recommendation, and I'll talk a little bit later about how you actually request them. Also, once a student has applied, we do ask that students circle back to this page to update it. One of the beautiful things of Naviance is students can look to see how they compare to other students who have applied. So if let's say Johnny wants to go to Temple, he puts in Temple. When he goes to the main Temple page, he scrolls to the bottom and he will see how he compares to students who got into Temple University. So it's a really great tool for students to use. So we ask that once students apply, that they keep updating that information because it helps future classes. Parents, you can have access to the Naviance account as well. Reach out to the counselor and we'll send you the link so that you can register yourself. This allows you to send messages to your child if you're like, hey, I saw this, go check out this school. It also just allows you to kind of see what they are doing. One of the features for Naviance is matching the Common App. So the Common App is one way that students can apply to colleges. The beauty of Common App is that students put in their demographic information once. And then they can select schools that are on the Common App as their schools that they're going to apply to. For example, let's take Johnny again, decides he wants to go to Villanova. He puts that on Naviance, and then he will match his account. In the Common App, he will probably have to do some supplementals. So there might be an extra essay or two. But for the majority of schools, the Common App is like a one-stop shop. On Common App, students do need to fill out what's called a FERPA. It is either agreeing to waive or not waive a student's right to see a letter of recommendation. This FERPA has to be signed in Common App. Then the student's going to come back over to Naviance and click on that big pink button and match their Common App with Naviance. This allows the two systems to merge. It's wonderful. Recommendations. Teacher recommendations. Students should first ask their teacher. If they are an in-person student, definitely in person. If they are synchronous, I would recommend showing up to a teacher's office hours and asking in person versus in writing. Once the student has asked the teacher, they're going to go back into their Naviance account. The letters of recommendation tab, they're going to click on it. It will give them the opportunity to scroll down to pick the teacher, and then the list of schools will be underneath of that. I recommend that the students select all versus clicking on individual colleges. It will save them a hassle in the end. As I told the students earlier today, a really nice gesture is to send a thank you note to a teacher who wrote a letter of recommendation. For us counselors, it's a little different. Many schools require a counselor recommendation even if there's no teacher recommendation. So we have a lot of writing to do. I think in my last class I wrote about 130 letters of recommendation. What we're asking the students to do is to complete the brag sheet under the surveys, send an email to their counselor and say, hey, I completed my brag sheet, can I set up an interview? We will then interview your child, and then from there we will write our letters of recommendation. Now, our class, I believe, is over 900, and last I checked, I think I'm at 320. So each of us has over 300 students, so deadlines are super important. We're asking that students give the counselors 3 weeks. So November 1st is a very big deadline if your child is going to do early action or early decision. We need to be notified of that 3 weeks, at least 3 weeks prior, or else we're not going to be able to guarantee getting that out. The sooner the better. I've been sending out messages to students on Schoology. Hopefully they'll, after today's assembly and after tonight's information and our email that we're going to send out, students will start to complete the brag sheet. All right, parents, this is really important for you. If your child is under 18, you have to sign off on the release of records. So we cannot release transcripts or any records to any entity outside of the high school unless we get permission. This year, we're going to use a electronic release of records form. The students we're going to send out the website. We have a college website. The release of records is on that website. You will click on it, make a copy, complete it, and then send it to the counselor. If a student is under 18, it must come from a parent email address. Super important. Parents, you are still the record keepers of your children. This release of records is different than FERPA on Common App. So again, Common App FERPA is waiving your right or not waiving your right to see your letters of recommendation. The release of records is permission for us to send transcripts to the colleges and universities. We do not send SAT scores or ACT scores. So if your child does want to send them, it is important to do that on the College Board or ACT website. Super important. Now, many schools will be SAT optional. We're still kind of in that weird COVID time where SAT and ACT are having trouble testing students because of the COVID restrictions. And so some will still be SAT optional. I can say I know for the class of 2021, some schools were SAT optional unless you wanted but if you wanted to be looked at for scholarship, then an SAT score did need to be submitted. So just kind of keep that in mind. And we'll talk a little bit later about the SATs and ACTs. To get to the how do we actually do the application process, I'm going to pass the mic along to Ms. Dawson.
So how do we apply to these schools? So the first thing is we start by reading. We've created an actual step-by-step guide from how to actually apply, all the Naviance steps, letter of recommendation steps, financial aid, and sending your scores if they're needed. So the first thing is to walk through or read over the step-by-step guide. We're going to have hard copies in the center. They're also going to be on our senior site, so which is like our college site. We're calling it the college site, but it's a senior site, so it has a bunch of different links for if you want to go to the College Board, the ACT, Delaware County application. There's like a lot of financial aid links on there, scholarship links. We'll send it out again so everyone can check it out. The next thing is, did you submit your release form? So that's the release of records, which we're doing online, like we said. That'll also be on the senior site. So the college tab on Naviance, you want to make sure that you're using the colleges I'm applying to page. There is also a colleges I'm thinking about. We want to make sure that students are working on the colleges I'm applying to page. Then you're also going to use the letters of recommendation page, except to request for your counselors. And then you're going to match your Common App with your Naviance account. And if you're using the Common App, that means you're just going to match it. But if you're also applying to schools directly through their website, you want to make sure you individually add those. There's actually a video on the senior site on how to do that. And the last thing is you're going to send your SAT, ACT scores directly from College Board or ACT. So we have no control. We don't know, your test scores. We also don't do financial aid. So those are kind of the two pieces that students and families have to do on their own. The next part is really important for counselors. So there's 900 students and 3 of us, so we have paper checklists. So in-person students must come to the center, grab a paper checklist for each school that they're going to. So they're going to go down the form and check off the boxes. I have finished my application. I have sent my scores. I asked for my letters. I've met with, my counselor. And then they can sit with us in a meeting, and we'll send their transcripts for them and go over it with them and discuss the schools. They have to hand deliver them to us. We really don't want them to leave them in our mailboxes. That wouldn't be too helpful for us. And they can pick those up in the center as well. For our students at home, our synchronous students, there will be a Google form. That link will be on the senior site. They can do it from there. It's kind of the same thing, a checklist, but it's just a virtual form. They can do that one. And then they have to request a virtual meeting with us that we can go over them that way too. So Naviance, again, is not the application. It's just used for sending school documents to colleges. Students must apply either through the Common App or directly on the school's websites. So moving on to financial aid. The first step in financial aid is creating your FSA ID. You can do this before FAFSA opens. So FAFSA will open on October 1st, every year, October 1st. So your FSA ID, it's just how you electronically sign the FAFSA. So students and parents need to create separate accounts with separate emails. You're going to want to save this information for every year because you're going to need to apply. So you're both going to have to sign it and save that info. If your parent doesn't have a Social Security number, then they can virtually just sign the signature page and skip over entering the Social Security number part. And you just want to make sure you save it. So FAFSA is the free application for student aid, and this must be filled out to determine eligibility of federal and state funds. So we have federal funds from FAFSA, state funds from FIA. So, you may have to complete if you're going to receive scholarships as well. So we don't do financial aid with the students, but we do have completion nights. So they are nights where families and their student, please bring your student to completion night. You can come, and Miss Catlett, our college and career counselor, she will be here. And usually we have someone from FIA or someone from financial aid at one of the colleges come in and help out. So you can bring your student. We'll help you out. We don't do it step by step with you in each question, but we are there to help if something pops up while you're doing it. So the dates are at the bottom, 10/5, 11/10, and 1/27. So we have 3 of those dates to kind of help the students out. So the big thing about FAFSA is gathering all of your documents and keeping them all in order. It'll make it go a lot quicker when you're trying to get it done. So the first thing is your 2020 taxes and W-2 for parents. If the student has a job and did their taxes or has a W-2, make sure you hold on to that as well. You're going to need your Social Security numbers for parents and students. If you don't have a Social Security number as a parent, you just enter all zeros in for that part. A driver's license number if the student has one. The alien registration if you are not a U.S. citizen. And so it will also ask questions about marital status and birth dates of parents. So just be aware if your students may or may not know that information about you. So a couple tips for FAFSA is make sure you have all those documents ready that I just went over. There is an IRS autofill tool. It's called an IRS retrieval tool on the FAFSA. You can click on that, enter in information about yourself, and it will autofill a bunch of questions. It'll make it go a lot quicker. It just really depends. Sometimes it depends on how you filed. Sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it'll be funky, but just make sure you double check what it puts in. So you can add up to 10 schools on FAFSA and indicate your housing preference. We always say to put your most expensive PA choice first so that FIA, our state financial aid, can be calculated. So again, you have federal money and state money. You want to make sure your students are applying for both buckets of money. When you're finished applying for FAFSA, all the way at the bottom, it should be like, I wish there were like balloons or confetti on it. There's a button that says to apply for FIA. Please click that button. If you miss the button, it's okay. They'll email you in a couple weeks to finish doing FIA. So here's kind of what it looks like when you log on. When we send this out, the link will be live and you can click on it. It takes about 30 minutes to complete. Make sure you are applying for the right year because students, are going to school all the time so they can apply it for financial aid. So I've had a couple seniors last year. When I had seniors, they applied for the senior year that they were in. You want to make sure you're applying for the year that you are going to be a freshman at school. All right, I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Haynes.
So one of the big things we talked about with students today was don't wait till the last minute. We talk about the college and technical school checklist. We've told students they want to make sure they get this checklist done, but then when they are handing it in, they want to hand it in within 3 weeks in advance. We talk about that with letters of recommendation as well. We don't want students who, when they have a November 1st deadline, coming to us on the 30th or the 31st or going to another teacher, hey, I need a letter of recommendation for tomorrow or for Friday on a Wednesday. So what we told students today was if it is a November 1st deadline, you should try and shoot for like October 11th. Or if it's a January 1st deadline, which we have as well, December 2nd, something earlier in the month. So just talking to them about doing stuff in advance, prioritizing, especially now that we are looking to that next step, looking to, for their education and prioritizing and honoring deadlines and different things like that. Communicating with their counselor, talked about any kind of updates on their applications, updates for their brag sheet. Sometimes they get different awards and different things come in. They need to update so that we can use for letters of recommendation and the teachers can use for letters of recommendation as well. Proofreading essays. Proofreading essays is a very big deal. We suggest to students to use teachers here for proofreading, but also asking parents as well. And one of the big things I stressed today to them was Ms. Morris touched on the SATs, and now with a lot of schools going SAT optional, they're not just, the SAT isn't the end-all be-all for getting into college anymore like it used to be. Now there's more to tell your story. So writing a very good essay helps, getting the good grades helps, working hard all the way to the end of high school. That all tells the story of the student that they are and helps them with that college application process. And then there's application fee waivers. So the application fee waivers for college are different than the application fee waivers for SATs. So the SAT fee waivers, they can contact their counselor. We can look up if they qualify. If they don't qualify, we do have a process for them to qualify, which involves a little bit of paperwork, which we can get to them for you guys to fill out as a family. But if they do qualify, we give them a code. It's good for 2 tests. With application fee waivers for college, there's multiple places that these can be found. So some are on College Board. Some are on the Common App, and then on the school's website as well. Contacting the school works also. So sometimes they're going to have to reach out to these different areas to see if they are eligible for application fee waivers. SAT, ACT. So coming up, we got the SAT. The dates are up here. November 6th date. They have to register on collegeboard.org at 10/8. It's not something we can do for them. They have to create their account. They have to go through and register for the test. Like I said earlier, they can come to us in advance if they're eligible for a fee waiver, and we can look that up and we can go through that process. But they have to register for the early deadline by October 8th. The December 4th test registration deadline is November 4th. Like I said, fee waivers, they'll check with their counselors if they're eligible, and we'll go from there. ACT, October 23rd, registration deadline 9/17, and December 11th with the registration deadline of 11/5. We also have fee waivers for the ACT, so same process. They can come and see their counselor. If they're eligible, we can go through that process and let them know. So we talk about what they should be doing right now. A big part of right now is going to be collecting their documents for their Fafsa. Ms. Dawson touched on all the documents that you need in advance to make your registration as easy as possible. So before it opens up on October 1st, they want to take the time from now until then to continue to collect those documents and have everything in place. Finalizing their school list as far as colleges and which colleges they want to apply to. I know I've talked to a lot of my students and talked to them about basing their list on geographic location, where they want to be. Do they want to go somewhere close to home? Do they want to go somewhere far? Financials obviously play a role in that. And finding that good fit. Finding that fit for them, doing that research. A lot of your research is going to be done online, but also, you'll be able to schedule your visits. You'll be able to do a lot of virtual visits now. I think that's one of the benefits that has come out of the pandemic is a lot of these colleges have gone to these virtual 3D visits where you can practically walk around campus now online. So different things like that. Following the college application sheet, the checklists. The checklists are going to be big. They need to make sure they cover everything on those checklists. That's why we have them come down to the center, grab their checklist for each school. So if they are applying to 8 schools, they're going to have 8 separate checklists. And then this way, they can make sure they go through and they have everything done on that checklist. Then they can set their meeting with us. They can come down. We can sit there. We can review. And we can make sure we have everything in place for when we're going to apply. So making sure they're following that. And sign up for college rep visits on Naviance. This is big. We talked about it earlier. Ms. Morris touched on it. The 8 a.m. ones that are virtual, which are great because a lot of these reps, it's been a smaller setting right now with students. But we're hoping that after tonight's presentation and earlier, we get more students to sign up. And we told them, they're 8 a.m., you wake up, put your computer on, log in, and you're able to get that intimate one-on-one, ask questions. A lot of these reps will go into extreme detail to try and answer every question they can and really give the students the opportunity to find out as much information as possible. So what they should be doing now, as we talked about, you want to make sure you're collecting those Fafsa documents. You're preparing yourself for Fafsa when it opens up on the 1st. They want to be collecting their checklist, making sure they have all their ducks in a row, and also making sure they're registering for the deadlines when it comes to SAT or ACT and those different things. And so my last thing we talked about with the kids today, this is a journey we're all on together. Preparation is key. And we want to have a plan for beyond high school for all our students. That plan isn't just college, because college isn't the plan for everybody, as we talked about earlier. Mr. Hensel touched on it. He didn't think that was his path. He went to a technical school, and the path takes you somewhere else at times. But we want every student that comes through our offices, through our center, and through our class to have a plan for after high school. Whatever that plan may be, we want to help with. So I'm going to send it back to Ms. Morris. She's going to tell you a little bit about Ms. Catlett, who's our college and career counselor up in 255 in the College and Career Center, and wrap us up.
Thank you. All right. I actually was also thinking about some things as I'm listening to the presentation. I want to just touch quickly upon 4 different points. One, the checklist is super important because sometimes students add not all of the correct information in Naviance. For example, University of Maryland has 4 different schools. And so it's really important for us to make sure that we have the ability to send the correct documents to the correct college. Sometimes students will see us for a college and we'll go look on Naviance and it'll be like, well, you're applying Common App, but you forgot to match your applications. So that is why it is super important that they see us in person with the yellow sheets, because we don't want to delay in sending the documents out. Also, I didn't make this clear when we were talking earlier. Students do need to submit the checklist 3 weeks in advance, but they do not have to finish their college application to see us. So for example, if students are applying for a January 1st deadline, they do need to see us by December 2nd because we're going to take a nice little break over Christmas. Now, students might not be ready to submit their application until, say, December 30th. That's okay. We just need to be able to send our documents out. Also, the release of records is not just for colleges and universities, but if students are going to go to the military, they also require transcripts. And we need to have a release of records, as well as technical schools. And then for fee waivers, sometimes students will check off on the Common App for a fee waiver. But we might have to say, hey, you're not eligible because you're not on the direct certification list, or a student brings us the financials and it doesn't fit within the guidelines. So just kind of be cognizant of that. The college visits are a great way to sometimes get fee waivers waived for those of you who do not qualify under the eligibility. When a student goes to the college visit here at the school, or if you get on their campus, always ask, is there a fee waiver? A lot of times schools will waive the fee, which is really good because fees are anywhere from $35 all the way up to like $70, depending on what schools students are applying to. Miss Catlett couldn't be here tonight. She is here in spirit. When she was here this morning, the one thing that you should not be doing is stress. We are not here to stress out parents. We are not here to stress out students. We promise we will give you all of the tools to get through this process, okay? It's your journey. For the students, we have to take the first step. That's number one, which is, starting to build that college list, filling out the brag sheet, communicating with us, the counselors. Read, super important. Students should be checking their school email on a regular basis because students who are going to apply to college, guess how the college is going to communicate with the students? Through email. So it's super important to get students to recognize that they need to check their school email daily, and they need to read the entire message. We would hate for a student to not get accepted to college because they failed to read an email that said that you needed a report card. 2, research. Miss Catlett is here as an addition to us. So your child has either myself, Mr. Haynes, or Miss Dawson. All of the children have access to Miss Catlett. So if students need a little bit more assistance or want to talk through the process a little bit more, she is an expert in her area. She is in room 255. She also can be found on the website to send an email to. So again, read, also one of my favorite words in senior year. Because we are kind of in person, kind of virtual, we are not going to do questions and answers in person, but we are going to keep this up here. You can take a picture, do the QR code. It allows you to submit your questions that you have for us. What we will do is take all of these questions, we will answer them in written form, and then we will put that out to our families and students so everybody can see the questions. So take a minute, think about the questions that you may have. We will also send this PowerPoint out. So if you don't have a question right now, but later tonight when you go home and you're laying your head down on the pillow and you go, oh my gosh, I should have asked this question. Or tomorrow when you're getting ready for work, right? That's how it usually happens. You will still have the ability to submit those questions to us. We thank you for coming in person. I must say, one thing that I miss the most from the pandemic is interacting with people live and in person. So thank you for coming with us today. And we will also thank anybody who watches the video here on out. And I'm just going to let Mr. Hensel close us completely out. I'm sure he has some words of wisdom.
Thank you. We've already said so much. There's a lot of information here to process. Our goal from here on out, and I believe the councils have already started doing this, is putting together an email communication that contains the video of this event, the PowerPoint of this event, the important links to Naviance support areas, the senior page that Ms. Dawson has put together, which is lengthy and has links to, as was stated already, College Board, Fafsa, all of that stuff. So there's going to be a lot of information that comes out to process, and that will be coming out tomorrow before the end of the day. So please look for that email. I will be mail merging that out or sending it through TAC to your email as well as your child's email. Again, I thank you all for being here. It is a journey that's unique to you and your student, and we want to help you in any way. Sometimes the questions can get specific to your scenario, and I think that's where, an email to one of the counselors directly is probably appropriate, but hopefully we can answer a lot of your questions and put this out on FAQs. We did an FAQ last year with our financial aid presentation that we did, so we'll include that on the page and in the email and some other things. So this gives us the ability to continue to have information in front of everybody for some of the commonly asked questions. So really appreciate, again, everybody being here tonight, and I hope that everybody has a good evening. Thank you again.